Hi! Welcome to another Scratch tutorial. I'm gonna go get right into this Pong game. The first thing we want to do is make a welcome screen. You can pull it in something to start from, or you can just make your own. I'm basically just making a blank purple backdrop, and the next thing we want to do is make a rules button and a start button. So here's my start button. And you want to make sure the two buttons are separate sprites. And then here's your rules button. Now when flag is clicked, we don't want to see the paddle quite yet. So we are going to go and hide it for this menu screen. We want the ball to start more or less in the center. When we start and show, and of course we want our little ball to let you customize it first thing. Rules, we only need it to show when the flag is clicked, and then when the button is clicked, we want to use our broadcast rules. And when the ball receives rules, it'll just say, use the left and right arrow keys to move. Get 10 or more points to win. And that's a pretty basic start screen. When start is pressed, we want it to show when the flag is clicked, and when start is pressed, we want it to broadcast start, and then we'll just have it hide. When the rules receive start, we want this little button to hide. The paddle receives start, we want it to show. And when this little ball receives start, there's a lot that needs to happen. So, when this little guy starts, we'll have the backdrop switch to backdrop 2. And we'll have it point in direction 45, just because it's a nice little starting direction. And we'll always just have it move 15 steps. That way it's a bit of a challenge. And if on edge, bounce. And now we're going to get our first intro into variables. We're going to make a variable for all sprites. We'll call this score. When flag is clicked, we want to set the score to 0 and hide it. But then when I receive start, we want it to show. Until the score is 10, we want it to start moving. What we have right now is an option to customize it, which is what we did last week. And then when it starts bouncing. And that is pretty good so far. Next, we have our paddle. So when the left arrow is pressed and when the right arrow is pressed, we want it to change X. For left, we want it to change by -35, and for the right, we want it to change it by +35. Now, we're able to move our little paddle. That should give us enough time to react to the bouncing ball. Now, back into the ball script, because that's where we're going to have a majority of our code, most of our code. Wait, oops, messed this up. This was right before. There we go. Much better. That was a bit confusing before. So, we want to make sure that when I receive start, we show the variable, the dark orange. We switch the backdrop and start moving. When flag is clicked, we just show and go to the center. Don't start moving yet. And now we have another repeat until when we receive start. And this is just to check if we're touching the paddle. Make sure you name your paddle paddle, because that just makes it a lot easier. If we are touching the paddle, we're going to turn it about 145 degrees. We probably want to make a little sound. That's not the right sound. We want it to sound like the ball's hitting the paddle. You can use whatever sound effect you want, but I personally am probably going to go with snare beatbox. It's got this hollow sound that sort of can sound like the paddle hitting the ball. So we're going to go into sound and play the snare beatbox, and we're going to change the score by 1. Because every time you successfully hit ball with your paddle, it increases your score. Amazing! So now, we have some freedom. Yay! And as you can see, I'm just moving along with my little paddle. I made it to 10 somehow, and now everything stopped. Still move my little paddle along, but other than that, the ball's not moving, the score's not increasing. We're good. It's a little boring though. Nothing happens when you win. There's literally no way to lose. Let's change that. So in your backdrop, let's get a little boundary that you can't hit. Maybe I'll just go, don't hit the blue. And yet another, when I receive start, repeat until score is 10. If you're touching color blue, you're going to broadcast game over and stop all. Remember that stop all is in orange control. And when I receive game over, I'm going to want to say game over. So if I lose, everything stops. I can still move my paddle, but the ball stopped moving, the score stopped increasing. We're good. This time we want it to be forever. If the score is 10, then we want to broadcast, instead of game over, celebration. And when celebration comes, you can do whatever you want to reward your player. I am going to say, yay, you did it, and play a victory sound. And for this, I'll probably want to frame my little pong ball in the center. Oh no, I lost! Not very good at this, but we know that the lose works. So we're going to keep going. Feeling adventurous, I'm going to go blue. Well, that glitched. Okay, so I figured out a way to fix the glitch. Sometimes it'll turn the wrong way and it will turn into the paddle instead of away from the paddle, which makes it count as multiple bounces, and that's a little bit weird. Now, if you want to fix this, we're going to use two if-else statements. 1, 2. And 2 operators, greater than and less than. We're going to set those both to 0. Now we're going to go into motion, scroll to the bottom and drag in direction. Now what this is doing is tracking what direction they're pointing in. Sometimes it's greater than 0, the number's positive. Sometimes it's less than 0, it's negative. If the number's negative, we want it to turn clockwise 90 degrees. Clockwise being towards the right. And if it's greater than 0, it's bigger than and positive, then we want it to turn left 90 degrees, counterclockwise. And if it's exactly 0, then let's just make it turn a full 180. And dragging this into your if touching paddle is a pretty safe way to make sure that you can have a full run without it doubling up on points. 1 point per hit. Notice that it didn't double up there. That's fun. And now you have a fairly basic game of Pong. Hopefully that was fun for you. When I made this back in 8th grade, I played a lot more with customization. I let you draw smiley faces on the little balls. Boop, boop, boop. And I would dress up my little Pong ball for the celebration parts. And that all comes just a little bit more work for sprites and broadcasting. I can help you if you want. And as always, feel free to send me the games that you make. It's pretty fun making Pong games like this. That's pretty much all I have. If you want to make a restart button, I'm copying and pasting my rules button, just changing it to restart. Awesome. Putting this here, and when flag is clicked, I am hiding this little dude. But when I receive game over, I am showing him. So when this sprite is clicked, I broadcast start. Let's see if this works. Just need to make sure it hides. So when I receive start, I'm going to hide because it seems to have a little bit of trouble hiding, even with the hide after the broadcast. So now I have a friendly little restart button. If we restart though, let's make sure we set our score back to 0. Now the reason we're not hearing dance around is because we're just broadcasting celebration forever as soon as the score is 10, because the score is not changing. So as soon as we broadcast celebration, we're just going to stop this script. Just this one section here. One last playthrough. Purple. And on that happy note, I'll see you next week. Next week we're going to be diving way more into these orange things called variables. There's a lot of different uses for them. For Pong I showed you how to make one, set it, change it, show it, hide it, literally all the options for variables. And we're just going to have more practice with that next week. Awesome.
Send any questions to seermodulcoding@gmail.com.